Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Renew You at Noon. Bishop Raymond Hall here. Thank you for joining us at DT. I have a topic for us to talk a little bit about today, if you don't mind. It's titled A Time to Recover. It's taken out of Samuel chapter 30, verse 18 and 19, which states that David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away. And David rescued his 2 wives, and there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil, nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. I believe that the church is beginning to understand the armaments that have been afforded to her. Revival has the capacity to awaken those things within the heart of even the most distant saints of God. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3 and 5 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into capacity or captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ." What Satan has embezzled from the church, both individually and collectively, is reaching a point of recovery. His plundering of our joy, his robbery of our victory, his kidnapping of our children who are caught up into a place of worldliness must stop. He has pillaged our prayers and mocked our worship. He has looted our peace. Hallelujah. But there is always another side to the story. All of these things must be restored to a church whose hope is not in itself, but in another. One who is much higher and more powerful than anything in this world. The church must arise and pursue. The church was never intended to be something that was stagnant or static. It is ever seeking to meet the challenge of its time. It is dynamic and pulsing with life. So there's a victory in pursuit. Tell somebody there's a victory in pursuit. So David and his 400 pressed on and engaged the Amalekites in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 9. And then you go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 17, gives us a hint as to the battle. David smote them from the twilight even unto evening of the day or the next day. Sometimes, men and women of God, the battle requires more than just a day. A church is not built in a day. A man of God is not built in a day, or a woman of God is not built in a day. A prayer warrior is not built in a day. A stressed fracture in life may take more than a day to recover. Pentecost occurred after a tarrying time. Hallelujah. Whatever the cost is, no matter what the obligation requires, the church finds herself at a point where she must pursue and conquer. No matter how long it takes, we must be, or I must be involved. No matter how difficult it may seem, there is a God who can help a man to recover. Satan may want us to think, hallelujah, we are as Esau and cannot recover our birthright. You have sold everything, hallelujah, and you can't buy it back. You may think that we are as Judas, and we have betrayed what we will never be able to redeem. You may think that we are like the rich young ruler who has bypassed the intercession of opportunity, and we cannot make a U-turn. The enemy of our soul will cause us to think that we cannot retrace our steps, but we cannot believe him. He is a liar. And my other point is this: the challenge of the fallen. Malachi says it this way in chapter 7, verse 8. He says, "Rejoice not against me, For when I fall, when I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. If we have fallen, the challenge is to get back up again. Ziklag has been looted and destroyed, but David encouraged himself in the Lord. The fire was rekindled. David recovered in a day what he had lost over a period of months or even perhaps years. Difficulties are suddenly left in the dust. Tears of defeat suddenly turn into songs of victory. Trouble suddenly turns into spiritual gym that hardens our muscles. Purpose and passion may have been robbed from us. Hallelujah. But we must recover those things which have been lost. Rise to the full potential that God has invested in us. David refused to lift a hand against Saul, but he went after the molesting force of the Amalekites and destroyed them. It's the principal thing for David. Some things we may have to put up with from the hand of our brother or our sisters, but we never have to submit to the antics and wicked influence of the world, the flesh, and the devil. God is a recoverer. He is a restorer. He is a rebuilder. The Epistle of Peter reveals to us of his descent towards recovery. And my last point is this: God often sees more than we do. Romans 4 speaks of Abraham. Paul writes that he did not stagger at the promise of God. This implies that he had strong faith. He then showed up in Hebrews chapter 11 in the roll call of faith. So what he's saying here, we must understand that God had a plan for his life, and he has a plan for our life. But however, when we read in Genesis the account of Abraham and his life, we find some things that are not so faithful. He quit praying too soon over Sodom. He was a liar about Sarah, his wife, whom he claimed was his sister. He had a son born out of doubt, named Ishmael. But God was willing to say that he was a man of great faith. I have a feeling that God often noticed more value in us than we even perceive. This is the same principle with Peter. God told him his name was Peter, a rock. Prior to that, he had been identified as Cephas. Hallelujah. I want to say to you today, men and women of God, no matter what the enemy has thrown your way, no matter how defeated you may seem, no matter what the battle may seem in your life right now, he may have taken some things away from you. But I'm here to encourage you today that it's time to recover. Our theme for DT this year is restoration. And we believe whatever the enemy has taken away from us in 2020, we will reclaim those things in 2021. May God bless you. May God's face continue to shine upon you. May he bless your life continuously. May your home be blessed. And as we go forth today, remember, David was a conqueror. He was a winner. And he was a man after God's own heart. And you are a man, a child, a son, a daughter after God's own heart. Bless you. Thank you. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday.